I mean, when we're working, we're on a contract with somebody, a state government, a state entity, a foreign government,
Right.
or a water district, that has hired us. So we have an area that we can only fly in.
Sure.
The counties pay for it by voting on it and levying mills. Places, a water district, they'll take their, I don't know where their money comes from exactly, but like a watershed area.
Right.
And they'll take probably taxes as well, and they'll set it up, vote on it, yep, we're going to do this project.
So
Some places are power companies, like hydro water companies, they'll pay for it themselves.
Right.
And Calgary, an insurance company pays for it.
Talking to you here from beautiful Maple Bay on Vancouver Island.
Bill's wife, and I was a school teacher.
My name is Bill Abram. I'm a retired school teacher too.
I believe we began watching almost when they began to show up here on the island. So we saw articles about them in Ontario. In Espanola, the town of Espanola in Ontario had sued the government because they were having excessive drift down of aluminum, and rainwater had been tested, and it was far above levels of safety. So once we read that and knew that it was a real thing and we weren't just seeing contrails from normal airplanes, we began to watch very carefully. Contrails are very commonly left behind a normal aircraft that's flying when the exhaust meets cold air, very cold air. It has to be 70 degrees below or something very cold, and it condenses, and you see it come out as a long line as the airplane flies, and normally they disappear within a few minutes. At the most, they've ever been measured to last about 20 minutes when conditions are very stable, but mostly they just disappear. Chemtrails is not the regular exhaust. It'll form, and it doesn't have to be into such cold air at all. And it hangs there in the air. It doesn't disappear in a few minutes. It can spread out, get wider and wider, and it can last for hours.
Back in the early 50s, I signed up as a meteorological observer. I had to identify every cloud in the sky and transmit the observations hourly to the Weather Service. And so consequently, I certainly got to recognize what was a genuine cloud and what wasn't. I just knew what mare's tails were and the elevations of the clouds. I had to identify them. But as I see the chemtrails here, they do not match what I was taught was cirrus or mare's tails or altostratus in a very thin layer. It just does not match with my observations in the early 50s, working as a weather observer.
Before about 5 years ago, our skies were typically blue, and now you see it's covered with lines and haze. We began to eventually test to see if in fact there was credence to what we were seeing. From the first test in precipitation in spring of '06 that tested 7 parts per billion. We've since had tests that have escalated as high as 3,450 parts per billion. That's a 50,000% increase in aluminum.
I sent this water, see it's right there, it says backyard rain gauge. Aluminum, 1,010 micrograms per liter of aluminum. And here's barium, 8 micrograms per liter of barium. And this is from the labs up in Redding, California. This is a certified government report. And here's what normal is. I asked them what would be normal. 0.5 would be normal
For aluminum?
For aluminum. And the maximum allowed in drinking water, they said 50 micrograms per liter, and government action required at 1,000. Well, we're over 1,000.
We're so far off the scales for toxicity in aluminum that it appears to be affecting the flora greatly. Our grass is about 1/3 its height that it was only a few years ago. A 35-year forestry biologist has done 50 pH tests. The rain across the board, every single test was 10 times or more alkaline than it should be.